Hi, everyone, and welcome to Sitting with the Herd. I am Jen Snow, and today we are with Kat Naud, who is here to share her journey. Oh, you know, we have. I
How
was
much
sitting.
have?
I know. I was sitting back this morning, and I was like meditating on this show, and I was thinking about our journeys with horses, but also our personal journeys as a growth and transformation. Because I don't know about you, but we have seen to take the hard road. I think I hit every speed bump on the way, and I know that we've hit these walls and we've hit these obstacles and we've hit these mountains that we've had to overcome. And I just like excited to share your progression because I've seen it from the beginning and I've seen it through into this moment. And I'm really excited for you to kind of come out and share with the world what inspired you to keep going, how you kept going, where you are today, where you've come from. So, Kat, tell us everything. And I'm a nosy Nancy, so keep talking and let's hear your journey and your experience with not just horses, with your chronic pain, overcoming chronic pain, coming back for professional riding, coaching, healing.
Wow, well, that is a very vague question. But like you said at the beginning, you felt like you've hit every speed bump along the way. Well, I feel like I was dragged behind a Mack truck over every freaking speed bump, like just dragged through the mud somehow. They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I must be bloody strong. That's all you and I have always done. I don't
Yeah.
even know that we've chosen the hard way. It's like the hard way chose us. It was our destiny. And I've always, and I'll circle back to this later, but I always kind of have looked at it like the hard way chose me so that I could share from a place of having gone through the hard, and it's given me a place of strength to help others going through the hard. And that's kind of the biggest lesson and takeaway I've learned through this whole process. But
Same
like
here.
I want the whole journey, the whole story. So I will start from the beginning. And guys, like
It's
it's
a
it's
ride.
it's gonna be a hot minute. So I don't know where to start but the beginning. So I started riding when I was an infant. I actually went to canter when I was 2 years old, which is insane because we don't even let kids start riding till 3. So
It's
I was
amazing how we didn't break, but now things have changed so much.
right. It's like, I have an almost 2-year-old right now, and I'm like, yeah, you trotted for the first time 3 steps, and like I was. Um, my mom said I couldn't ride if I couldn't get on.
I
Um,
know that story.
yeah, so I used to stack chairs and totes and grooming boxes on top of each other. And it was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa against my poor pony, and climb my way up there. And my little pony Snowball was a saint for putting up with me. I would go for a ride around the property, just like put loose, like this little nugget falling off basically. And every time without fail, I would come back to the barn without my saddle because I had taken it off and left it like 10 acres back, much to my mom's dismay. This is why she didn't buy me nice things. Um,
A little bit of payback here and there doesn't hurt.
right? I know. So I've now gotten the payback of a sassy little exact of my own. But yeah, no. And yeah, riding was always my everything. Like I've tried baseball, I've tried volley, like I tried things, but I have 0% athleticism or skills or talents for sport on 2 legs. 4 legs is where it's at for me, and it always has been that way. So when I was actually 6, I declared I was going to the Olympics. And, a lot of kids are dreamers. A lot of kids are like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an Olympian or a princess or whatever. But at 6, I'd actually tracked out every year of my life till the Olympics I had chosen I was going to, and had planned what horses I would need and what levels I would need to go and all of the pieces that went. So I was very goal orientated, if you didn't catch that.
Very serious. I've seen the map both in her head and out in the physical world. And it's very like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very like plan, organized, set goals, manageable goals that you can, like, since 6, like what 6-year-old has tracked their life till they're 24 and the Olympics they're going to. And I was on track, and my life was fabulous growing up. I had lots of roadblocks and other pieces and traumas and things, but I just had tunnel vision and blocked it all out. And nothing mattered to me other than training and other than the Olympics. And I had such tunnel vision on those goals that it got me through so many big, hard, dark things that happened around me or to me through my childhood. And it was kind of like water off a duck's back. Like nothing really stuck in an affect me kind of way because I had this thing to focus on, and it let me, maybe the right word is dissociate from the other things, but it let me just have somewhere to put my energy and to put like my focus. And it kept me sane, and it kept me grounded and safe. You know, all those kids going through high school that find parties and boys.
Mhm.
And I had a super serious boyfriend all through high school, and he had 4 legs and a tail. And
He
that was
did.
not me. He did.
It's
He was
really
very
cute.
pretty. He was tall. He had dark hair. He was gorgeous. And you'll hear more about him in Jen's, but his name was I Spy, and he was a 5-year-old off-track thoroughbred, and I was 14. It's a terrifying combination just right there, but I got him when he was 3 and crazy, and I was
There's
12.
like mental pictures, just like poof, explosions.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like
Yeah.
putting a 12-year-old on a stick of dynamite and lighting it off into a cross-country field.
That is
Yeah,
so it.
it's exactly what it was like. I look back on videos, I'm like, oh God, how did we not die? And it was out of stubbornness, a little bit of balls to the wall, and that
Mhm.
horse would follow me through a ring of fire. And he loved me enough to be like, you're insane, but I guess we'll go.
We'll be
And
insane together. This is
yeah,
what we're gonna do. That was his motto.
yeah,
Together we will rise.
joint insanity. Both of us probably had a straight jacket at some point. I actually remember being 13 or 14. I hadn't gone prelim yet, or ridden on the young rider team with him yet. And we went up to this big schooling site for the young rider training camp in Jovale, which is in Pritchard, BC. And at that time, they used to run to advance, which is like the highest level of horse trials. And there was this water line on the back
Mhm.
part of the property, and everyone was going, and all the people there were already riding higher levels, and I was just this little tiny ducky who had more balls than brains. And everyone went through this line, and I was like, can I go? And fully expecting to be told like, you're an idiot, but then I look really brave and cool because I asked, right?
Well,
And my coach was like, all right. I was like, oh shit, I have to do that.
she said yes.
And it was this giant kind of sloping ramp up to the hanging log with a ditch under it.
Which I
One
remember.
biggest log and drop you've ever seen. They called it the BFL for big log.
Yeah.
2 strides to another BFL into the water, across the water, 4 strides, a bank out of water, this tiny little skinny. And I was like, this is how we go, but we have to go now. And there's actually a photo of me doing the like giant drop into water like this, just like not looking. Like looking into my arm, not at the tiny skinny on the way out. And my horse
That's an aftermath. You got to get through the first one anyhow.
seriously, that horse.
I remember that
Yeah.
line chewing people up. Like that
Oh, yeah.
line chewed people up. Like
That like
it was
experienced people. And I'm like
exactly, yeah.
little greener than grass, thinking I'm super cool person, just like, okay, we're going. And like we made it through perfectly. And that horse was a saint, and I did not deserve him. I can live 1,000 lifetimes and never deserve what that horse put up with.
I feel like that with Dylan. I feel
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That was like my first prelim experience, actually.
Yeah.
Very similar, but I didn't ask. I thought she said go, and I was like, okay. They said go, so. And I remember going, like, I think I'm like that. Like, I pushed my hands forward and thought, please God, please God. And then I
Yeah.
thought I was really,
The duct tape up, strapping yourself in. You're like, whatever happens, I'm staying on.
and I remember landing, and I looked back at my coach and my mom, and they were on the grass. Like, I'm pretty sure they had a mild heart attack because that was not, we were going starter. That was not the jump that we were supposed to be. I'm like, I don't know. It looks
But
small.
did you die?
Oh,
No.
no, we made it.
You're
Now
fine.
I'd be like,
You're ready.
oh,
But yeah, so I had that horse for many years. He was a total heart horse of mine. He
can you talk about what a hard horse is?
Oh, yes. So a heart horse is a horse that is like a piece of your soul that just like without words has this connection to you, this communication with you that you can't explain that you physically miss when you're apart, or that like you can ride and it feels like something out of a movie because it's just so magical and special, and you don't need your aids. It's just this like intuition between the two of you. It's like sharing two brains and two bodies become one. It's really magical. And so I've been lucky enough to have two of those in my lifetime, and I am super blessed to have had Ide, and I had him till the day he passed. And yeah, he was just an incredible, kind creature. My whole goal for him was to train him and sell him. Never happened.
Sorry, that's my
I know, right? We did sale videos and I was very aloof. It's fine. And, then we found a buyer who offered full price for him, didn't try to negotiate, subject to vetting. He passed his vetting. And I told my mom that if she sold him, I would never ride again. So we didn't sell him.
Shocking.
Yeah. Again, I rode him out back of our different property, took my saddle off, left it there, and then came back as a full like teenager. Yeah, there's a here. But no, and he was just really special. I was just super blessed to have him as a part of my learning and developing as a high performance athlete, and getting my name out there, and riding on the Canadian Young Rider team, and riding FEI, and all of the pieces that came with this horse. And really, like, it was all built on trust and like the skin of our teeth. Like, looking back, I'm like, oh boy, we would go to, the biggest competitions and the Young Rider team, and like competing in Montana. We were like second to last after dressage out of like 75 people, deservingly second to actually anyone. I was like, really? Did you fall off or something? Like, it was bad. And then we would end up placing because he'd go double clear cross country and double clear show jump, just because he would. Maybe not because they should.
Because he could fly. Let's be honest. I Spy could fly.
Yes, him and his four mismatching legs.
Yes, he could fly.
Yeah, he had a heart of gold. But then after I got my next heart horse, Jackson, and he was the horse that from 6 I had planned I was going to go to the Olympics on. And we were on track. So I got Jackson as a scrawny, crazy 3-year-old. He was 17.3 and just the most athletic creature. Still probably one of the most athletic horses I've ridden in my life.
Still is.
Yeah, he's still one of the most athletic creatures I've ever ridden, or maybe will ever ride.
Don't test him on it either, people. He's like, oh, I can do this.
He does. It gives him great pride. He when he was getting started, how I ended up with him was kind of by accident. We were starting to think about, I was maxing out where I'd physically had level wise without injuring him. So we're kind of in the back of our minds, but not quite there yet. And my coach at the time was training out of a barn, and that person used to breed horses and sell horses. And Jackson, baby Noodle Jackson, had chucked like 10 people in 10 days. No one could last their rodeo 8 seconds. And he when he was squirrely and crazy, like,
it's true.
When my coach was like, oh, throw Kat on, she stays on everything. Probably because I started off track baby thoroughbreds since like 12.
They teach you a lot. They really do.
Yeah, they teach you where to put the duct tape.
Yeah. The spray.
Totally, 100%. Just super glue. Actually, the Gorilla Glue works great, guys. Fun fact. You just leave your breeches on and put them onto the horse.
Yeah, because once you Gorilla, you're in. Like, that's it.
Totally. And so I ended up riding him for this barn because I didn't fall off, and it was literally the only job requirement is you didn't die. So go you. A lot of back to the crazy days of like starting horses, which probably would never fly nowadays, but that's how I grew up.
Very true.
And yeah, so I rode him for 2 weeks, and I took him over a pole at the trot, just like a laying on the ground pole. And he cleared the 5-foot standards next to the pole. And my coach was like, tell no one this happened. Go get your checkbook. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Buy this horse today or I will. Like, right now, buy this horse. And so, yeah, I ended up with him. There were a lot of crazy years. That horse has broken my nose by coming up this way. That horse has given me a concussion by bucking so high that his butt hit me in the back of the head. Didn't fall off, fun fact, on either of those. So,
I've
yeah.
seen this, by the way, people. I have actually
Yeah.
physically seen this.
Yeah, Jem was around for all of that. We joke that he has the Smurf theme song that runs through his head. La, 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 la,
Very
la.
true.
Literally just his theme song. And so, yeah, so I had Jackson and we competed up the levels together. We ran to what's now 3-star intermediate level. It was 2-star back then. They've changed it recently. And competed all through Canada, all through California and Washington and Montana. And yeah, our goal was to go to the Olympics, and we were on track, and we had 2 years left to make our qualifiers, and we had enough time to do the levels that were required, and everything was just kind of really lining up. And it was like, oh my gosh, all the stars are lining up, all the ducks have come in a row. Like, how often does this happen? Fun fact, spoiler alert, it doesn't happen. And everything was going so well that we had to hit bumps. And it, in hindsight, it's something that before I get into the speed bumps, I needed. I just firstly was so competitive that I lost the fun.
Oh yes, I know this feeling.
It was work. So like every time I rode a horse, I would ride 10 horses a day. And people who are like dying to ride are like, that sounds amazing. And to me, that was a job. And it had kind of spoiled the fun. I would take people on trail rides and beach rides and as like a paid, like making money to pay for competitions. And like, those are things people like dream of doing. And they became a chore to me. And competitions and training was literally for one purpose. And I had lost the like enjoyment part. I had lost the like, this is so fun. It was stress, it was pressure, and self-imposed pressure, not from anybody else. But I'd trot down centerline in dressage, and there was so much tension in me that Jackson would act out because I was putting so much pressure between us, and we had that unspoken bond that he's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Why are you at like a 10? Let's take it to a 2, crazy lady. Maybe have a glass of wine or something. And I kind of had lost that thrill other than the thrill of the chase. And that is not enough reason to ride horses and connect with horses and work as hard as you do with horses to be a high performance athlete, because it is not a 9 to 5. It is not a 40-hour week. It is like an 80-hour week. And you sacrifice so much socially, like yourself, your body, you're like, even without what, the accidents that we're going to get to, like, I will still have chronic pain from the wear and tear, and you're up at 6 a.m. doing stalls, and you're in the barn until 9 most nights. And, so if you're going to work that hard and push yourself physically and mentally and emotionally that hard, you better freaking love it. And so it's kind of,
Can I
now,
jump in?
yeah.
So when you were at that point when this became a job and it was your job, how did that start to change your connection with the horses that you were riding and working with and competing?
Yeah, so it became very all business with me. So I actually had kind of, especially sale horses, like I'm the type who like falls in love with every horse that I'm training. And my mom jokes, she's like, you love every horse you ride more than like 5 times. And I do, and I totally believe in them because I put so much of my heart and soul into every horse and student that I teach. And that part of me had really kind of fell apart and fell away. And I felt like that personality trait that I had always like, really enjoyed about myself was kind of disappearing. I felt a little harsher and colder. And then the biggest piece for me was like Jackson really feeling, especially the dressage, like cross country. I didn't stress as much, even though that's the most dangerous part. There was never stress for me, but the dressage and show jump, like results based, you could really see the difference of how much tension. And like I was having to ride Jackson 4 times before a dressage test because he was so crazy. And like, he's still spicy and he's like the best horse in the world. And I'm not going to lie with it. He is. He's really good looking. And he'll still like act all bougie and hot and like, but he was crazy. Like unrideably crazy.
He was very up.
Yeah, he was at the 10, and like, where did that come from? So
I'm sure somebody said something once upon a time, but we won't even get into that part this time.
no one likes a know-it-all, Jen.
No, nobody does, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah, and so and it literally took like losing everything to realize like the place that it was. And you can hear it from other people, but till you actually have to learn it yourself the hard way, it doesn't sometimes stick.
It's very true. It's like everybody giving advice. Like you have a bad breakup and everybody's got some advice, but it doesn't settle, and it doesn't resonate until you're ready or you've gone through something on the other side of that journey. And speaking of the other side, I know I was just that is her book, by the way, people. Yeah. Which you can find on different platforms. But
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, got to put that shameless little plug in there.
We do, because it's there. And on the cover, you're going to see this magnificent photo of her and Jackson.
That is Jackson and me, a real photo of us.
It is.
Yeah, so it's called The Other Side. And yeah, we'll get kind of into that part of how I got to that title and the other side of this accident that we had. So we were at a big qualifier in Chehalis, Washington, and we had a pretty devastating fall. It was actually the last fence, and we have what's called a rotational fall, which is actually one of the leading causes of death in our sport. And 3-day eventing is actually one of the most dangerous sports in the Summer Olympics for that exact reason. And we'll dive into my feelings maybe in future episodes about eventing and how our sport has maybe changed in the negative in my way, and things that can prevent these kind of life-ending falls, and why I've chosen to step away from the sport altogether. It's actually not because of my injury. It's because of the, in my opinion, digression of our sport. But that's a conversation for a later day.
It will be too, because I have opinions.
Fall, where my horse hit the fence. So Jackson's huge. So he's 17.3. So for non-horsey people, there's 4 inches in every hand. So he was 17.3 hands high. So you do the math. I'm not doing it. But his back, so I'm 5'7". His back was like this much taller than my head. And so he, given a choice when you're trying to get a distance to a fence, always takes a long stride, because it's just easier for him naturally, because he's long and it's easier to coil out than to package. And so we were coming up to a table, last jump on course. We were actually in first place and we had 1 jump left, and it was going to be an amazing addition to our qualification list. And he chose something totally different than me. And, part of all this stress and kind of creating this almost job atmosphere had really damaged our kind of in sync behavior. And I've never had that horse put in a tiny bunny hop step ever willingly. I've asked for it and barely got it. And he, for the first time in his career, and he was like a teenager, I've had him since 3, put this tiny little chip into the jump, but he was unfortunately too close, and hit the front of the upright table with his knees, and he did a somersault in the air, and so did I, basically like gymnasts. But my 1,200-pound horse landed on me on the other side, and we went skidding 10 feet with him on top of me. You're going, 400 meters a minute to a dead stop with 1,200 pounds. That motion just carries you. So we went 10 feet sliding, with him laying on top of me. So that obviously didn't end well. I'm pretty sure I took years off my poor mother's life. I might have to start paying for her hair dye. So
I need in on that, because I was,
well, she got to see it. She was very close.
Yeah, she was.
And I got to see it because somebody thought it was a great idea to send me the video of it happening months later. And you don't need to see that. Fun fact. If you ever have a really bad fall, don't watch the video. Great to know.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah.
No.
See how I handled it. There was a little, so I got airlifted to the Seattle hospital. Don't ask me which one. Don't remember. It's all very blurry. They loaded me in drugs because I was in so much pain. All I wanted was to stay and deal with my horse. I was literally fighting the like little breathing thing they put on just to ask what was going on with him, and nobody had an answer. Very luckily, and I'll say this first for every horse lover, because any horse person knows, like, that's your first concern. I'm like laying on a stretcher being airlifted, and I only cared about that. My working student at the time, Michelle, we joke Jackson's nanny, taken him back, had taken him to the vets. He'd been cleared. She was icing his legs, taking care of. He was golden. So I cushioned his blow totally. So I'm actually very thankful for that. And he's totally fine. Had no long-term repercussions. And she had totally taken care of him. So very lucky to have her on my team. But yeah, so then they pumped me full of drugs, and I started to aspirate in the helicopter and almost die because I was choking on my own vomit, because when you're in a helicopter, they can't just tip you because it will sway the helicopter and then everyone's at risk. I remember the like air nurse that like, or the paramedic, air paramedic, I guess is the right word, actually crying, looking down at me because she felt so bad for me and what I was going through. Fun little antidote: when you have a bad fall and a head injury, every doctor's first question is, do you know your name? When is your birthday? The fun answer to that question is, my birthday was that day. So this all happened on my 25th birthday. Happy birthday. And yeah, and so we got to the hospital, very blurry from there, very loaded on drugs. The great thing about being in the States is you get incredible quick care. So I had x-rays, MRIs of my back really quickly. They diagnosed me with a fracture on my L2, 3, and 4 and a really strong concussion. And I think we were there a couple days. Couldn't actually tell you how many. All I can tell you for sure is they cut off my really nice riding boots, and I was right proper pissed about that.
And you know,
yeah, the worst. Never.
Yeah. This is why they have zippers now.
I know. They had zippers. They just didn't look like they're the back. I've seen these funny people with like a medical alert bracelet, and it's all it says on their boots.
Do not cut. Yeah, like, don't cut.
Yeah, if I still evented, I'd probably wear one of those cross country. But yeah, and then it led me into this whole real fun journey with chronic pain that I obviously had never planned for in my little 6-year-old Olympic chart. And I was told right away after that I would be off for like 6 months, and then I would be fine. That the way I broke my vertebrae was actually super good for healing. That after a couple months I could start, moving around more, I'd feel better. But after 6 months, like, I should be like good, like, you're fine. And that just never really seemed to be the case. But in my head, I was like, okay, 6 months, we can still hit these shows, and like, it's gonna be tighter, but we can still make it. So the first time that I got back on, I was shattered emotionally. It felt like my spine was collapsing. Like, I was in so much pain. I could hardly breathe, and just to walk. And I knew that there was something more, that there's something deeper, that we were missing something. Most of my pain had always been like pretty low down, and more towards the left, but I thought maybe I broke the left worse, or like, I don't know. I know nothing about human anatomy, only person anatomy or horse anatomy. And so, yeah, so then I went to my doctor and ended up getting more x-rays and more tests and all the things. I got referred to go to Cairo, where in their inpatient x-rays, I found out I actually had a fracture in my pelvis, and it was actually dislocated too, and probably had very well been dislocated the whole 6 months. So that's fun. That is kind of the hard part about getting injured in other countries. The follow-up and like the test being sent is different. So it had just been missed, and it's not really anyone's specific fault. Maybe mine for not knowing anything about human anatomy. When they said L2, 3, 4, I just assumed it's down there. Apparently the middle of your back.
Most people would.
Yeah, well, all I cared about was the ponies. But anyway, so yeah, so my healing time got like dramatically extended, and it just never really heals. I never really regained the stability in my pelvis. It could have been operable at the time, but 6 months later, it's too late. So even still, it's been, I don't want to say how long, because that tells people how old I am now.
I know, right?
It's been a minute.
It's been a bit.
It's been 7 years, and I still dislocate my pelvis on an almost weekly basis. I now know how to put it in, which is fun, but still have that kind of loss of stability. And I finally saw chronic pain doctors and specialists and surgeons, and was basically told, like, this is your life. You're going to be in pain every day, and we don't really have a great healing solution for you. This is what it is. And so at that time, I'm 25. I'm hitting a 10 out of 10 pain every single day. I'm dislocating my pelvis every day, plus a broken back. And it really kind of thrust me into a dark, dark depression. Every day was worse. Every day just compounded. And every day without horses and my outlet and somewhere to put that energy just became harder. And along with losing your sport and being a high performance athlete where you're so fit and, you know, active, I'm riding 10 horses a day. You could eat cake every day, ride 10 horses a day.
You can.
You really can. I don't, but like you could have.
You could.
You could. And sort of lose that activity. And like at this point, like I'm hardly walking around at all. Like I would shuffle out to go teach, sit to teach because it hurts so badly, and then shuffle back. Like I'm doing 100 steps a day. And so then you add weight gain on top of pain, which only makes the pain worse. But then you have body issues and like all of these things just really compounded. I felt like I was in a washing machine, like just really cycle getting worse and worse and worse. And there was no real way out. So the depression really started to win. And I've actually never previously struggled with depression till this. So I didn't even have really great tools to combat any of what I was going through. So I ended up basically suicidal. Not basically, just be brave and say I was suicidal. And I would wake up every single day and talk myself out of ending my life that day. And for stupid small things like, oh, you can't kill yourself today, you have to teach. So oh, you can't do it today, you're supposed to go here for dinner. And it was a chore. Everything was a chore. I started to also isolate myself. Like I had so many people in my network, but very similar to, you know, Jen with her cycle of this, like you are the only one going through it yourself. And so it is
very alone.
You feel very alone. Even if there's a room full of people, you're the only one dealing with that pain. And at that time of my life, I was the only person living in that degree of chronic pain that I knew of. And so, yeah, I actually got to a point where I didn't have something on my calendar that week. And so I sat on my bathroom floor and with a bottle of pills, and I was done. And I was not going to do this anymore. And when you're 25 and in a 10 out of 10 pain every day with no solution, no long-term, like, oh, it's going to hurt for this, like that's bleak. And no one could give me any hope. And, you know, my final straw is I was told by my doctor to go down to one of the hospitals in Vancouver that specializes in, you know, spinal stuff, because he thought I was starting to lose feeling in my foot. Like my foot was turning blue and I couldn't move my toes. So he thought that the transverse processes, the little wings on your vertebrae that I'd broken off of both sides of all three vertebrae, were interfering, and I was actually risking paralysis. And I went straight to VGH with a requisition from my doctor to be there. And I waited for 4 hours to see someone, for him to not ask me a question, not examine me, not send me for a test. He said, "What drugs do you want?" And I was like, no, not here for drugs. Like literally see this note from my doctor. If I needed just painkillers, could have gotten them there.
Yeah.
And his answer to me was, well, I'm busy, so you can take the drugs, so you can leave. And so it was actually that same week that I had gotten to that breaking point where I had no hope. No one was helping. No one felt like they were in my corner, and there was people in my corner. I just couldn't see past where I was.
When you're in that moment, it's like all of a sudden your vision is, you don't see anything, you don't feel anything but what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. And you're in that moment.
Yeah.
You can't see that you've been happy in the past. You can't see that there's a possibility for you to be happy again or get through this, because it's just so consuming. It's like being in the dark fog. It just takes over everything, and it robs you of being able to see anything else other than your current feelings, and that's depression. And so yeah, I decided that I was done, and I sat on that bathroom floor with my bottle of painkillers that I did not get from that doctor. I had already had. If I wanted painkillers, I had a broken back and pelvis, so I could have painkillers if I wanted. And it was time. I was going to be done, and I couldn't do this anymore. I was at a fight, and I sat there for a while, just thinking about the people I'd be leaving behind, and even that wasn't going to sway my decision. It wasn't going to change my path that I was on. It just made my heart sad to think of the grief that I'd be passing on to them, because that is what suicide is it ending your suffering but giving it to others, for the loss that they face of losing you, especially in that way. And it's, handing your emotional feelings that you couldn't carry to the next person, your family, your parents, your spouse, your kids. And thinking about all of that just slowly started to make my heart hurt in a way that I hadn't expected. It started to make me just hesitate. And in that exact moment, my other heart pet, she's
Here she is. I was waiting for her.
is a
Hello,
squirrel.
Karma.
Her name is Karma, aka Squirrel. She started clawing at the door to my bathroom out of some knowing. Animals are incredible and intuitive, and she started the door. And it's not uncommon for me to be in the bathroom with the door closed. People kind of go in there and close the door.
I don't know. Gracie might have an option to say no to that, because my dog Gracie believed that nobody should have time in the bathroom alone.
My 1-year-old also believes the same. Yeah. Mommy is no longer allowed to pee by herself.
No.
But anyway, so she scratched at the door. So I just opened the door so she'd stop scratching, because I just wanted to focus on ending this and being done. And she just came and sat next to me and put her head on my lap, looking up at me. And I just burst into tears, because at this point I hadn't even cried. I was just emotionally disconnected. I just didn't want to have feelings. I just wanted to feel nothing and feel over and feel relief of it being done. And I just burst into tears. And I decided in that moment that I would fight, and that I would fight for my life and for my future. And so I literally crawled my way up from the bathroom floor. I'd fallen down. My pelvis was dislocated. Getting up was not a simple thing.
No.
And I looked in the mirror and I just yelled enough. Like, I literally made eye contact with myself and screamed enough. And I decided to end that pity party moment that I was having. So I got back to OG Kat. How do I go forward from here? Well, guess what?
It's a big question.
That's some goal. That is very typical me. So my goal went from going to the Olympics to, okay, you are going to go outside and walk for 5 minutes today. Talk about a real shifting gears, but
it's still a huge goal.
It's a huge goal when you live in chronic pain with dislocated joints, and
it's
harder than going to the Olympics.
I actually think that this next part of the journey was definitely
grueling.
Yeah.
This is the Mack truck dragging you for the speed bumps. Yeah.
This hitting every rock on the way down and thinking
every rock, every break.
That was a sharp edge.
100%. That 5 minutes felt like torture. Like, literally, it was like standing at the base of Everest. Like, I have to do what? Like, 5 minutes seems so easy and nonchalant in your day, but 5 minutes of making yourself move when it hurts to take every, not even full step, just to think about moving hurts. And so I committed every day for 5 minutes. I'm going to take this cute ass dog who saved my life, and we're going for a 5-minute walk down the road. And that 5 minutes got weird. It got crazy. That 5-minute torture a day became the thing literally getting me out of bed every day. It became a little faster each time, a little longer, and became 10 minutes and 15 minutes. And, Tony Robbins says it best, motion is lotion. And
it is.
That movement started to help take some of the weight off, both physically and emotionally. And it gave me an outlet. And I really realized, when the only thing you have in your life is pain, it's pretty bleak. So as soon as I brought, something else into my life kind of became worth living again. And that fueled me to bring other things into my life, like social things with friends. And then the biggest and hardest and scariest piece for me was, okay, the 5 minutes is my baseline. It was now up to like half an hour, but that was my baseline. I added the friends. And then the big steps for me next were adding in horses in a way that wasn't riding. Because horses had always been my home. They'd always been my safe place to land and my safe place to have feelings. And I'd honestly lost so much of that pre the fall that I didn't even know how to find my love for horses again without riding them and competing and having these big audacious dreams. Like, I now only rode to compete and train and hit these big dreams and goals of going to the Olympics and qualifiers and all of that. And so I had to relearn loving horses and literally like relearn it from a whole new perspective. And so I went out to Jackson's paddock and I just sat. I didn't even pet him the first like 2 weeks. I didn't even touch him. I didn't brush him. I did nothing. I just sat on the floor in the mud and cried every day, cried. And somebody on the out, they must have thought I was right proper crazy, but that's okay. And then he kind of just ignored me and let me do my thing for the first 2 weeks. He just let me cry and be, and he just ate and, you know, kind of didn't ignore me. He knew I was there,
just held
but
space.
Held space. And after 2 weeks, he was like, all right, enough of this shit. And he came over and I was sitting there and I just had my hands in my head like this. And I wasn't really looking up and paying attention to him. And he took his nose and just like knocked me over, like literally on my back. I was like, like pancake. And I was like, oh, okay, we're done with this now. And
moving on.
We're moving on. And so then he just, every time when I was interacting with me, and we'd just be standing sometimes head to head, or me just holding on to him, or him just kind of embracing me in like a horsey hug, and then I started brushing him, and then we went on walks in hand, and it really kind of opened me back up to loving horses again and not just viewing them as like a means to my goals and work and a chore, something I had to do today. And I've actually kind of vowed to really never let myself get back to that place with horses. I even now, if I do take on a client's horse, I'll take maybe one at a time for training, but I don't take back to the point where it consumes me and it becomes that work and it becomes something I have to do and don't enjoy. So I've really lived.
Now that you've gotten to this place where you've opened up to that love, that connection, how is that changing and inspiring you as you move forward?
So it led into me being brave. While I was sitting out in the paddock, I came to a bunch of conclusions at the same kind of time frame that I had to let Jackson go. And that sounds crazy. This is the horse that's healing you and preventing you from, you know, wanting to turn back to the darkness. But he was so athletic and talented. And I realized that my physical capacities to be an upper level event rider were gone. And I needed to do what was right for him. He loved his job. He loved to compete. He, out cross country, was a machine. Like, it was his favorite thing in the world. And you basically could just hand that horse the map and like stay on and he'd love it. And so I decided I needed to let him go. And selling him was one of the hardest and strongest things I've ever done. It was right for him. It wasn't what felt right for me at the time. It broke my heart. I'll start welling up. But yeah, it's like it was giving a piece of me away to someone else. I got deeply, deeply lucky. I found, and I was very particular. Yes. I found an amazing girl named Brianna who was a young rider, and she lived in California, one of the like nicest parts of California. He lived like a bougier life than me for sure. She took him on and competed him, and she would message me pictures and updates. And anytime they do something cool, every show they go to, the first year she'd go to a show and she didn't know how Jackson would handle the line. She'd send me a picture, like, what do you think? Like, just so involved. She respected like our relationship so much. She'd say, you're always his owner too. And it was just really special to still feel a part of that journey. Like, it was really hard. But it was really special that she kept me as a part of it as she did. And then the other part for me was realizing that all of these skills that I'd learned over the years weren't just skills for writing, that they were skills that I could transfer into other things. And that I'd identified for so long as a professional athlete that I had to actually allow myself to let that go a little bit and identify as a human who had other capacities, who could do something else. And that kind of pushed me literally off a cliff into starting a vlog. So I did one video because I was just going to like test the water, dip my little toe in, first time in my life, a total chicken, and just share my experience and my journey so far in chronic pain, because I'd never really done that. And I don't feel like I ever suffered silently. I felt like I all but had a skywriter following me around saying she's in pain. But when I put that first video out, I had like 200 responses in 24 hours. People who had no idea that I was struggling in pain. And what was even more incredible was so many people in my life that were then felt open to share their chronic pain journeys with me. And there were so many people that I had no idea they struggled. And it really made me realize, like, we don't talk about it.
No, we don't.
No, like, and I don't know why. I think it makes us
I think
feel.
it's a programming. I think it's the way that we were, I don't know about you, but crying and complaining wasn't a part of my
I grew up with
family life.
like a winner.
Like I remember as a kid, my upper lip shaking and I was like pushing it down, like, like, because I viewed it, and I don't anymore, but as weakness. Like,
Yeah.
if
I was told since 2, no whiners, no crybabies, no hand holders was my literal motto from my mom. Since you be tough and you grit it out, and you should just be able to toughen it through everything. You fall off, you get back on. And but I feel like I couldn't achieve any of those. Like, I really felt like a failure. And to feel like I couldn't just bounce back, especially at 25, like, you're young, you can heal. Like, to not be able to bounce back made me feel like a failure.
it really does
It
test every boundary, every belief, every perceived programming mindset that you take on. Like, when I was in neuropathy was probably like what is the chronic pain. And I remember being in so much pain that I couldn't think, let alone talk. Like, people want me to talk. I didn't have it. Like, and I would pace.
Yeah.
Because it was the only thing I could do.
Yeah.
I was exhausted, falling, but I was, but I didn't want to talk about it. I couldn't talk about it. And it felt very weird the moment I did try to describe that.
And
but it was
powerful. And I honestly, like, as somebody who lives every day in chronic pain, and since sharing this vlog, it blew up and took off. It actually led me to do a TED Talk on chronic pain, which was incredible, and write a book on chronic pain and living in chronic pain in that journey. And like, I honestly, if you get up every day and you're in chronic pain and you still get yourself out of bed and you get dressed and you shower and brush your damn teeth, or you feed your kids or your dogs, or you go to work, or any of these things, like, you're doing this in chronic pain, like, that makes you stronger, not weaker. Because everyone's doing those things, but you're doing it on an uphill climb every day. And like, that makes you stronger. And so now it's like a total passion of mine and career ambition of mine, goal, the goal orientated, to share that to share the dark, the hard, the ugly, so I have chronic pain Facebook group, and, I'm well into works on my next writing projects, and became certified as an equine assisted learning instructor. I don't like to use the word instructor because the horses are the teacher. I just translate.
They really are. We're the guides as we go and we create. We are the guides. But yes, the horses are definitely in charge.
Training. do. I like the word translator. Makes me feel like I know another language.
You
And it's
do, though.
it's
We
more
do know
like
another language, one that
oh
was forgotten way back when, but it's coming back into the world step by
yeah.
step.
Yeah. And I love that we get to share that with people. And I've
Mm.
had hundreds over it. So this is, and obviously, so this happened at 25, I'm 32. And I didn't actually start the journey of being able to share the hard and the dark for a couple years. And so in end of 2018 is when I started the vlog. And from then till, now, which is end of 2022,
Oh my
it's been
God.
4 years. And I've had hundreds, literally hundreds of people message me out of the blue saying, I watched your TED talk and it saved my life, or I read your book and it helped me make a better life choice when I was feeling dark and helpless. I've had therapists from across the world message me about how they share my blog or vlog with their clients as inspiration and hope. And so led me to become a certified life coach to be able to do that one-on-one help with other people. And I try to always share the best of my abilities. We all get vain and have moments and feel, oh, well, my hair doesn't look great today because you see I keep touching it. My child has been playing with it since this
I
morning.
have a toque because it's
Smart, I should have gone with the toque, but we all have our vanities. But I try my
we
best to
do.
share that real and share that unsheltered heart, even if it's scary. And because I think we do ourselves a great disservice as a society by not sharing that. Now that I've talked about the hair, I really just want to imagine.
It looks beautiful.
Thanks, Nancy.
But I agree
But
with
yeah,
you.
great disservice because we only put that pretty picture up on social. And so then your neighbor or your friend down the street, they're comparing to this fake, not real thing. And it leads to depression. It leads to feeling like, well, Susie's doing so much better job as a parent than me. Susie's doing so much better at work than me. So, like, we don't share that, like, things are hard enough. And it really creates this, like, unrealistic standard for
The
people.
illusion of
It's an illusion.
perfection.
It's crap. It's not actual perfection. It's not
No,
actual. And so I like to be the balance out there in the world. And
I'm with you.
I do share good things. There are amazing, wonderful things in my life. If you go on my social media, it's like 99% my adorable, sassy little
Who
19
is
baby.
who I can't I just you know what? I am so excited.
She
That's all
is
I
a
got.
fool for sure. But I'll share the good days with her. I'll share all the fun, amazing memories, and there are way more good days than bad. But I'll also share the days where she throws herself on the floor and has a tantrum because I broke her granola bar in half and clearly ruined her life.
Very rude. Rude.
Dare you? You've ruined it.
I was just saying.
Yeah. Oh, and even not just as parenting, but hard days with life and pain, and I will share it. And I continue the vlog and continue my chronic pain group and continue to write books and share hard trauma things because I do feel like it needs to be out there in the world so people who are maybe suffering alongside have somebody that makes them feel less alone. Because if you can see, if I'd had somebody who would put something out there that I could find, and I'm sure there are other amazing people who do share their chronic pain, but if it wasn't anywhere that I found and it wasn't in my sight and vision and I wasn't seeing anybody else living this life, and so I felt so alone because I was the only one walking it, when in truth there were so many people that I knew who were walking the same path with me, but they were not ready to say it. And so I want to be that person who's saying it so that if somebody else needs somebody to have said it first, so it's okay and gives them permission and space to say it too,
It's
great.
creating a community of safety that allows us to speak our truth and be authentic and be
Absolutely.
real. And I think that that is one of the biggest things when you're working with horses
Yep.
and connecting with horses is that they don't actually care if you have lashes and lipstick on or if you've got the bougie clothes. They're looking through you.
Yeah.
And when they look through you, they see everything that you've either tried to hide, you tried to bury, I got the excavator out when I was in my space and I dug deep and I didn't think the universe could see what I have buried. But my horse,
You see it.
my dogs were like, yeah, please. You thought you had an excavator? Let me just show you and blow on that.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, yeah.
About animals and this, in particular working with horses through it's even if you can't find a person who you can connect to or tell your secrets to or share your space with you, is they will stand with you and share that space and just give you permission to not be okay.
Mhm.
Um, and give you a place to like lean that energy. And it's literally the last line of my TED talk, but like a million days in pain together is easier than one day by yourself. And whether that together is you find a community of people who are struggling similar to you, or you find that one person you can share it to, or you find an animal who will hold that space with you and will be there with you. Animals, I honestly, like I say it about my dogs and my horses, like, but you know the saying, like, dogs are a man's best friend. Like, I don't know what we did to deserve them as our best friend, as a like human race. Like,
That's another show because
100%.
we have, oh God, yeah, I agree. My horses who have passed, the herd that has passed, I still write with them. I still write to them. I still talk to them, and they still hold space for me. So whether they're physical or energetic, light body selves, they are always there, and they choose us for a reason. And when they
Well,
choose us, they know. They know before we know.
100%. And so, speaking of being chosen, Jackson had always chosen me, and I'd put in our sale agreement that if they ever retired him, that I would love to have him back. So actually, just this spring, he came back to me 1 month before, or sorry, 1 month after the launch of my book that is all about our journey together and our pain journey. He actually came back to me and retired. He's still rideable for dressage. Actually, this August we went to our first dressage show together, and he acted like a goofball, and I laughed through the whole freaking thing. We were competing in the States, had spent money and energy and everything getting us ready, and I laughed the whole time. And it was just total joy. And even him being a silly, we got the marks that he was we really promising pair, but obviously still green and developing, for my 8-year-old horse who's gone FEI for a decade. And it didn't matter. We won both days, and overall championship didn't matter. It really, like, we could have come last and I would have been just as happy to just be there with him and appreciate that moment and having him back. And I go out to the barn and see him every day. And every day I walk on property, I can be across the property, and he hears my voice and his head shoots up like a llama with his little ears.
It's true.
Ears are like the biggest ear. He might be part donkey. I don't actually know. And they just shoot up, and he can clock me anywhere on that property within 10 seconds. He'll like, she's right there. I know. I see her. I hear her. And that horse chose me. And I'm blessed every day that that happened. And I'm so excited that Jen and I get to share that magic and that connection that you can have. That horse is honestly one of my absolute best friends on this planet. And I still ride him a bit, but he's older and slowing down, and even not riding him and just being in his presence makes my day better. We get to share that magic.
It's like the full circle.
Yeah.
So every part of the journey comes full back into this spectacular growth of transformation for both of you, right?
I know. Who knew?
Oh, we're gonna have to do an entire show on Jackson because I feel like Jackson has a lot to say.
A lot to say.
A
A
lot
lot
to
of
say.
Smurf songs there too. He'll
Yeah,
sing his song
we will
for you
have to.
if you're really listening.
Well, I don't think you have to really listen because he'd be like, "Hello, I'm in the building."
Yeah. No, he's a interesting character.
So, if you're thinking back on your entire experience and this entire journey coming forward, back to this moment where you are right now, what would you say to yourself?
That it was worth it. That every dark day, all the pain, the not knowing if I'd make it, the self-doubt, the struggle, the just gloom and doom, and the hardest things you can go through, literally not knowing if you're going to make it day to day, it was worth it. And it was worth it to find the horse person that I am today. I feel like I'm a way better horse person than I ever have been. My connection with my animals is deeper. My connection and with my sport and riding is completely changed. Actually appreciate and enjoy it and cherish it in a way that I hadn't for a really long time. Um, it allowed me space to see other parts of my life that were possible as well, that I'd never even opened up to, because I was just in this tunnel vision of wanting to be a high performance athlete. And, you know, in this whole journey, I met my husband, who I never would have given the time of day to. Not that he isn't amazing and wonderful, but I just had to train, had to, like, it was like almost compulsive. Um, and he's wonderful and stood by me. Literally, we met a week before I broke my back and pelvis. Our first date was like 3 days post hospital.
Mhm.
And he showed up at my house with horse magazines, which I don't read, but it's really cute. Movies he showed, and they're like teenage kid horse magazines too, but it was a really cute picture. And,
Oh
you know,
goodness.
we're married and we have a beautiful, wonderful daughter. And, you know, it's created just like a balance that I never had, and an openness to life as a whole that I never really probably would have let myself see, because I was so stuck in that tunnel vision. And that's something that in any sessions I do with anybody or talks I do, like, there is another side to not just chronic pain, but whatever fight you're fighting right now, because we're all fighting a fight all the time. We
Mhm.
all have health issues or grief, loss, depression, anxiety, job stress, interpersonal relationships. Like, we're all fighting an invisible fight. Even COVID was just so incredibly hard on everyone,
Mhm.
and the isolation and loneliness, and we're all fighting something. And just hold on and take it day to day. Give yourself a daily goal, and there is another side of whatever you're fighting. And that's actually why I named my book The Other Side, because I found the other side of chronic pain and the life it led me to. And it's still, every month there's another side. Every week I've got
Mhm.
another side and a new surface and a new, you know, little thing that I'm working towards. And there's just constantly another side every day.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you. So fun.
I am so excited to be on this journey with you, and I know we have talked about this, oh my god,
For years.
for years, decades. We're going to actually say it cuz it'll age us both, but that's okay cuz we, you know, it is what it is. Yes, I am. I
Oh, it's pointing
am.
the wrong way.
Yeah, I know. I am older, and that's okay. It just means, you know, I get to kick your butt a little bit as you kicked mine. So, thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for choosing to stay. And thank you for sharing every part of who you are with this world, with me, with everyone who gets to see this, who everyone chooses to see this, because you bring light into this world like no other. And this world would never have been the same without you. So I'm so glad you chose to stay.
Well, I appreciate you, and I just am blown away that we get to do this together and that we get to create this space, and then also the amazing workshops we have coming together, to create this space of from the dark healing through horses, and get to do that together. It's really
I
special.
know. All right, guys, thank you for so much for being here, for spending your time watching this video. Please make sure you smash the like button, the share button, and drop us a comment. If there is a topic that you want us to touch on, please leave us a comment and we will make sure we get back and answer that live or on a recording. So thank you
Make
guys.
sure
Have a
to
great
follow us,
Yes.
because we have videos of our amazing kind of horse connections and with the horses. And guys, you'll even get to meet the famous Jackson. He's dying to be a part of this, and
Oh, I know.
literally dying. And you'll get to just hear so many more stories than just ours of how horses
Yeah.
have lives in our community, and people who are horsey or not horsey, and how it's really affected and impacted their life and trajectory as well. So we can't wait to share all of that with you guys.